Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Post podcast. On this week's show,
Mauro Ranallo and the authors of pain are all gone. NXT, what's happening with their world champion and Roman Reigns, the new WWE Universal Champion?
We also have some news regarding Major League Wrestling. What can we expect from them when they return in November?
And we'll finish the show with the all-important AEW All Out preview. All that and more. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome once again to the Pro Wrestling Post podcast. How are we all? All good, I hope. As usual, I am here with my good buddy Mark and my good buddy Pete. Sorry, Pablo. No, Pete. How are we, guys?
I'm just glad to know what my name is.
Oh dear. I will definitely stay on the straight and narrow this week, and you are definitely Pete. No, probably, just definitely Pete.
Definitely Pete.
Talking about there in the intro, there's been a lot of WWE news. Hot on the heels of SummerSlam, hot on the heels of Payback, and some breaking news just literally before we went on air this evening / this afternoon. Mark, what can you tell us about this?
So, authors of pain, Akam and Rezar, former tag team champions in NXT, on the main roster, managed at one point by Drake Maverick, before that managed by Paul Ellering in NXT. Unfortunately, no longer with the WWE. The last time we saw them, where they were following they were disciples of Seth Rollins, and that was the last time we had seen them. But injuries, unfortunately, have played a part in some of their delays and push, and they're no longer with the promotion.
Yeah, that one was a shock because they hadn't really done much since the coming to the main roster. 2018 was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a shame because they always seemed to be on the cusp of something, and then there'd be injuries or some change in the way they were going to be presented, and they'd be off TV for a little bit, and we'd miss out on their presence.
It's strange because when the furloughs happened and the releases happened in April, I penciled one or both of them in just because of their apparent injury proneness and lack of push and whatever else. But they stayed, 6-7 months down the line, and they're gone anyway. It's rather strange. I'm not too sure why they've announced it now. Maybe the injuries are worse than what they let on. I'm not sure, but it's a sad thing. And as I said to Pete before the show started, I'm going to give it about half an hour after the show finishes before everyone goes, "Oh, they're AEW bound."
Which is interesting because I think they seem more suited to Major League Wrestling or even Impact.
No, you was right when you said earlier about popping them into Contra Unit in MLW, which, by the way, we've got news coming about MLW later on in the show. That would be a great fit, definitely.
But we have some other major exits to WWE this week, isn't that right, Mark?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Mauro Ranallo, the face of the commentary team with NXT, was outstanding, and his time with the company is gone. If you've been listening, there's been Stu Bennett or Wade Barrett, or whichever name he's going to be going by, has been on commentary along with Vic Joseph more in the last recent. I think COVID probably played a part in that, but he's going to go off to do other things that. He's always been heavily tied to MMA, and it was always felt that there was other opportunities out there for him, but that's really unfortunate. Some people, it's funny what he did with those around him. I don't know if I necessarily have the same take on it. Trying to put himself over, I don't know about that, but that was one person's take that I read. I think he was just uberly exuberant. That's just my take on it. And somebody might see it differently and said, no, you have to share the spotlight, share the wealth with what you do. It's not just about your voice, it's everyone's. So, what do you think, Pete, Mark?
I'm going to miss Mauro, really. I liked his voice. He made it feel more like sports, because his voice seemed to be more cut out for like calling a football game or something professional like that. And I think his Mamma Mia is going to go down with JR's By God and Joey Styles' Oh My God as like one of the great signature calls in the industry.
For sure. Mauro's going to be a huge loss. And for Stu Bennett / Wade Barrett to step into his shoes, it's a bit of a tough ask, even though he's not going to be stepping into his shoes as such. But people are going to compare him because he's come as Mauro's gone. Whatever Mauro does, he works hard, and if his documentary is anything to go by, he'll land on his feet. He's got troubles. Everyone's got troubles, but he battles them, powers through, and wherever he lands, whether it's with his Showtime contract, whether it's MMA, the guy's golden in my eyes. There's nothing he can do wrong.
Yeah, he's really got the golden voice. He can go just about anywhere with that.
But
do you guys like the pop? Sorry, do you like the? I like the pop culture references and the stuff that he weaves in there that maybe fly over some people's heads, but I think it's funny. I don't know. You guys find it amusing at all, or?
Yeah, like I said, he's been my favorite commentator since coming back, apart from Excalibur. But like as far as a straightforward play-by-play commentator, I think Mauro's gonna be up there with the greats like JR, like Tony Schiavone, like Gordon Solie, even, dare I say.
There was literally about a few times, I can count them on one hand, where I think that he overdid the pop culture references. And considering he was with the company for 4 years, he was doing weekly TV, he was doing pay-per-views, 5 times in 4 years, where I just think he's done a smidgen over the top with the pop culture references. I mean, as I said, the guy's golden. There's nothing he can do that will sour him on me. And yeah, just good luck to him in his next venture. And also, talking about good luck in their next venture, who else has been let go / contract expiry happened this week, Mark?
Well, it wasn't the advocate for the Beast Incarnate. It was the Beast Incarnate minus the advocate. Brock Lesnar no longer with the WWE.
Yeah.
When this news broke, I was going to privately message Pete and say, this is all a swerve because in 4 weeks' time he's going to appear unannounced on Raw Underground.
Yeah, I remember I brought it up in the group chat that we're all in, that we might have to retire Lesnar Watch for Raw Underground.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah,
but
he really was the last Undertaker style attraction in WWE, especially because he was the one who ended the streak. And I'm okay with not seeing him on TV for a little bit, especially considering that his last run was kind of impressive, considering what his runs have been like before.
Yeah.
But I think if he were still under contract, if he could just give us a year of Brock Lesnar giving back, in a sense of like putting over some of the new beasts that are coming up, I think that could have been a really interesting way to or a really positive way to see off Lesnar.
Is this really the end of Lesnar, or is this just Vince keeping him in a holding pattern and going, when I need you the most, I'm going to bring you back?
It might be that. We've seen that with others like Batista and The Rock. Of course, I don't think Lesnar is going into Hollywood anytime soon, but I think he'll probably do. He might do a bit of MMA. Probably not for UFC after his last appearance, but he's another guy who's got options, even if he just wants to sit at home in Calgary,
sit in his massive farm and just count his stacks of money like Scrooge McDuck. Yes, I'm showing my age. So with the departures, we've had some more kind of controversy in regards to the NXT title.
Yeah. So it was a 4-way match. You had Finn Balor, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano all compete, and I guess it's as one of our writers, Jake Landmaster, mentioned that maybe we should make it an and pending because there was no definitive winner. So what's happened since last week?
Well, NXT GM decided he couldn't split Finn Balor and Adam Cole at two wins apiece and went, okay, next week, pair of you, one-on-one for the title. And that's kind of annoyed a lot of fans out there. The hates I've seen on Twitter, hate's probably a bit strong word, but the annoyance level.
Yeah, the vitriol.
Thank you, vitriol, good word. The vitriol of people on Twitter is it's been quite harsh. I don't mind it. I mean, people seem to get wound up because a match ended in a draw. And yet, it's been a while since something like that's happened. When go back 20, 25 years, there were time limit draws, there were count-out draws, there were things like that twice a week. And people seem to have forgotten that. The younger fans are obviously not conditioned to it. So for me, it doesn't bother me. We get to see Balor against Cole one-on-one. I'm good for it. What about you guys?
Yeah, as you were saying, with the way people used to have count out draws and time limit draws all the time. When this happened, one of my first thoughts was, I bet Dusty would have liked this.
Definitely,
It seems like a thing he would have gotten on to, and it keeps people interested, at least to see what happens next week, because NXT is doing a Tuesday show next week again. Excited as I am to see Cole and Balor one-on-one, I'm kind of not excited about the prospect of either man as champion. I think Cole and Undisputed Era are kind of going in circles, and it's kind of what I said about Ciampa and Gargano last week. But yeah, Cole's going in circles, and I danced around this opinion while we were talking about the NXT Takeover 30 card.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna say it now. I think that Finn Balor is kind of boring.
Uh-oh. Now, for people who don't know, his Twitter handle is @PeteProbably. Feel free to just chuck that vitriol at him that you were aiming at the NXT general manager, and to chuck it at Pete, because that's a bold statement there, dude.
And when you send that hate, don't put a full stop before the @ symbol. Make sure it fully goes there. Type in all caps if you need be. Lots of exclamation marks. So you got to explain your thought of boredom. Like, maybe elaborate.
Yeah. I'm gonna. Okay, so I think that Finn Balor's, when he's not the demon, he's incredibly boring, because he's just the that smiling babyface that we'd gotten to know in WWE, and his matches when he's not the demon all seem kind of the same, and even when he is in the demon persona, they seem really samey. But as a heel though, in general, how are you finding? I'm interested at the very least to see if he brings an even more edge to wrestling heel as the demon. Because I think that's really his selling point with WWE. I'm open to the possibility that I am missing something fantastic he did in Japan that would absolutely change my opinion of him. I've also had wrestlers that I am not big on explained to me in a way that makes them click. Like I wasn't into Shinsuke Nakamura for the first bit of him being in WWE, but then someone explained it to me that he's Japanese Shawn Michaels, and all of a sudden everything made sense, and it seemed like I was everything I was missing just came together at that point. So maybe I'm just not thinking about Balor the right way. If someone would like to correct me, I am open to it.
The way I see it is that when WWE signed Finn Balor, they signed the guy who changed New Japan with Bullet Club, the man that went from this smiley, happy, waving at the fans babyface to a big F you, I'm a foreigner, I've had enough of your crap. The guy who sometimes uses like paint and other stuff. And they brought him in and pushed him with the demon gimmick. Now, when he went back to NXT and he turned on Johnny Gargano, did the Pele kick and turned heel. Everyone around the world was expecting that same heel that led the Bullet Club, that formed the Bullet Club. What they got was a watered down version, the WWE version, and it's tarred him. So unless and now he's treading water as a tweener, I think, if that's even a thing. I hate using that word, but he's treading water. He's neither a heel, he's neither a face. He's right down the middle. Whether or not they're going to pull the gun on him and do the double turn and make Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era complete fully babyface and turn Balor heel, it could work, but there's so many variables in the way. But I do kind of see where you're coming from with your analogy of Balor.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it'll be a good match. I think guys are both of them are able to keep up with each other in the work rate. I think that they did an excellent job with the Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match, even if it was a draw. But yeah, just like I said, I'm not excited for either man having a championship run.
Okay, just switching gears slightly. You're not excited about either man having a championship run there. Are you excited about the big dog coming back, scooping up that Universal title, and having an advocate?
Scooping up the Universal title? No. I think there should have been a little bit more build before he got it. About picking up Paul Heyman, I think that could be a very good thing, because having Heyman talk for him allows Reigns to do what he did best when he was in the Shield, which was just kind of be a quiet, powerful presence. And
totally agree.
And when he did speak, his words carried more power because he didn't speak very frequently. And when the Shield split, and he kind of seemed unfazed by it, and just became this promo guy, or at least tried to be a promo guy, and it didn't work. We all remember Suffer and Succotash. But
dear. It's hard not to.
Yeah, it's hard to forget. But yeah, I think that could do wonders to Reigns if he's going to continue in the way that they have shown him so far. I think that his manager is Paul Heyman also kind of conveys that status that Lesnar had, and if that's the case, then maybe they're building Reigns in a new direction to kind of take over as the end boss of WWE, as it were.
Okay, I can see that.
But now that I've said it, that's probably not what they're going to do at all.
We say this all the time. We bring up all these great ideas and then listen and go, yeah, that's great, and then go down a completely different route. What about you, Mark? You're very quiet.
No, I was just trying to think intently on the words that were coming out of the mouth of Pete Schering. So it's interesting, though. I think with Reigns, I can see a lot of what Pete's saying. And I wonder if the idea, if we're going to get more of an explanation in the relationship, I was seeing these kind of like almost 6 degrees of separation kind of memes floating around of like, oh, things, they planted seeds. Like, I'm not going to give WWE that much credit, but somebody really took the time to say, back like 5 years ago, do you remember the massive snowstorm? Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman shook hands before he met face to face with Brock. I'm thinking, you put so much thought into saying seeds were planted then? There's no way, unless you're psychic and you've got something 1-800 number that you can call that you could have predicted this would have happened 5 years later. Did you know there was going to be a pandemic? I mean, I don't know if there was going to be any idea that this was going to be the direction, but I think a lot of what Pete was saying is true. If the idea is that strong presence in Reigns, then why would you need a Brock Lesnar when he shows vulnerability as a competitor?
You have a point. Pete has a point. Yeah, I mean, it's still too early. Mm-hmm. It's me stumbling over my words there. I'm trying again, Mr. Positive. I can see big things with Heyman by his side. Now, whether that's going to result in Lesnar coming back at some point saying, "Oi, you've got my manager. What are you doing?" And you'll have a Paul Heyman or a pole match or some randomness down the line. That's a possibility. You could have, as Pete said, you could have Reigns just step into the Lesnar role and just dominate everyone, and just let Paul use him as the heat magnet.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's so many different ways it could go. And by the sound of it, from what I've seen and reading online, is that now Reigns is the big heel of the company. You've now got the Fiend as the big babyface of the company. That's a bit of a stretch in my eyes. I mean, I said last week that I love Bray. He's totally underused, but for them to just switch him and push him into this huge babyface as the Fiend.
Yeah, if you had told me if you had told me last year that this is how it's gonna be, this is how things are gonna be, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah,
I would have thought that's some serious pie in the sky thinking. They're not gonna do. But now
my wife,
times are crazy.
Yeah, my wife is not convinced by this. She's like, "Wait a minute, this guy that puts his fingers in somebody else's." She's trying to use like the logic police. She's like, he put his fingers in the mouth of an innocent little, not a little girl, but an innocent, wearing a mask like that, carrying the head of a lamp. I don't know.
Maybe the beating and the chair shots that he got has flipped a switch, and now he's going to be more of like the funhouse Bray, and hey kids, I'm your new Super Cena or something along those lines. You never know with their booking. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
As a whole, are we happy with that direction?
I'm happy with the direction I pitched. I don't know how I feel about keeping Bray as top babyface or at least top babyface on SmackDown. But then again, who else could really fill that role other than Strowman?
Well, if you're listening to the underground, not the Raw underground, but the underground beats, the Keith Lee is going to be pushed to the moon,
which is great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's about bloody time, but they've got to be careful because it could end up down the Goldberg route where you get pushed to the moon and pushed down someone's throat so much we end up saying thanks but no thanks. But at least he's getting pushed, so
he's so versatile though. That's the thing with Keith Lee, where you wouldn't get that with a Goldberg.
He's so amazing. He's so good. He's athletic. He's strong. He's good on the mic. He ticks all the sodding boxes. He's amazing. Oh,
yeah.
Love him.
Check.
Truly. I'm excited to see if that turns out to be true. Because like I said last week, I was really disappointed that he didn't get that much of a run as NXT champion.
Oh, let's keep our fingers crossed for that. And talking about being fingers crossed, we've had our fingers crossed as a community, as a wrestling community. I've had our fingers crossed for quite a while about MLW's return. And earlier this week, it was announced that MLW are coming back. Pete, have you got any news?
Yes, I do. MLW is having a set of tapings at an undisclosed location in October. We learned yesterday they have a new signee. They signed a deal with indie wrestler Kevin Koo. And we also know, or it's rumored at least, that when MLW Major League Wrestling returns to regular programming, that their weekly show will have a different name and a different time slot.
That's right. Yeah, it was the news broke on, I think it was Sports Illustrated. Very strange not being on a dirt sheet, but yeah, it was broke on Sports Illustrated.
I learned from PW Insider.
I think they got it from Sports Illustrated. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm sticking to. But all the news came out from there. There was, as you said, an undisclosed location on the East Coast. There's a possible new show name, a new slot, back on the TV. I think it was early November. So that's huge news. Huge news. And while I'm on it, don't say yourself short about the new signee, because you wrote a piece for us yesterday about the new signee, which you can find on ProWrestlingPost.com. So just push your work, man. Always push your work. Shield like a demon.
Yeah,
shield like a fiend.
Shield like a fiend. Oh yes.
I guess. Yeah, I've been wondering myself. We're 5 episodes in, and I haven't really plugged myself that much.
Oh, that'll change. We'll sort that out. It's because you're in a crisis, Pablo, Pete, and all that kind of stuff. But we've sorted that. So, Mark, MLW, are you happy? I know you're a bit of a MLW aficionado.
I was very excited about the fact of them coming back. Whatever Court Bauer seems to touch, he really has his hand on the pulse of what is important and providing another option and not doing the exact same thing. And whatever comes about with this restart and the return of Brian Pillman, it looks like I don't know what his contract status is officially with AEW, but he had asked for a release. He's not necessarily released. He's going to be part of the promotion moving forward. Do they have a heart foundation? What is this restart going to look like? It's kind of hard. I think if you've gotten any of the newsletter updates, Contra Unit had taken over, and to some extent, there was things happening where they were taking over the show, which led in well with the pandemic. But what happens now? Who's going to be a part of this show moving forward? Who are the names? Calvin Tankman, I think, was part of that coming forward, and now Kevin Koo. These are prominent names. We're gonna We're gonna be getting a preview of a show where guys like Lawler and Tankman are gonna be a part of that, just like they're part of MLW on Pro Wrestling Post this weekend, by the way. But yeah,
I hope it still retains the feel of Fusion, because I remember, like, I started watching Fusion in December of 2018, and the only reason I fell off is because I was on the road for work much of last summer and didn't have a reliable internet connection. But yeah, when I was watching it, I remember thinking to myself, it really feels like almost like Georgia Championship Wrestling and ECW like had a baby, and I really hope that it stays like that. And yeah, I'm excited to see more Tom Lawler, some of the Von Erichs, and see how this Contra Unit angle resolves.
With the breaking news earlier, with AOP leaving, you could see them. They could turn up on these tapings. So keep your eyes peeled. So from there, we're going to go and talk about a few things that have been published by ourselves this week. Mark, I think you've got a couple with you there. What have we got?
We have in memoriam of the late Bullet Bar Bob Armstrong by Dr. Mike Lano. He writes about the history of Bob, his contributions, his family that is still a part of the industry, and what they mean to wrestling.
I was reading that. When was it? The day it was published. I didn't know the guy had wrestled for 59 years.
Yeah,
that was an amazing stat that he put out there. Yeah.
59 years. That just messed with my mind a bit there. Sorry.
Yeah, this is one of those guys who should be up there with Dusty Rhodes and Terry Funk and Jerry Lawler as like one of those guys who really stayed in it for the love of the sport.
I think the last angle I remember was him part of TNA as part of the James crew with his son, with Brian James as part of it, when him and Billy Gunn and like Road Dogg, they were all part of it. I think he was involved in some NWA TNA angle at the time.
I'm trying to remember what their stable was called.
Voodoo Kid Mafia.
Yes, that's the one.
But just going back to Bullet Bob, Dr. Mike was dropping facts like they were going out of fashion. He was in All Japan in the 70s with Giant Baba. He was an ex-fireman. He had this massive facial injury. I didn't know any of this. And to look at him, over the past 10, 15 years, when he came into my consciousness, you wouldn't think that of him.
Yeah, not at all. Like, I remember hearing about him as one of the heroes of the territory days, but like I thought of that in the same way you might think of Mr. Wrestling or like I said, the Funk Brothers, people who were instrumental at the time but have kind of fallen off in recent years.
And it's a shame that it takes for something like this for them to come back into the public eye. It's a real shame. Our thoughts, hearts and prayers go out to the Armstrong family. From one legend to another, we've got a new writer on the site this week who's given us a piece about another legend. Isn't that right, Mark?
We do. Mike Bryan, who's trained with OVW, it really works hard and was really passionate when he applied to come to write for Pro Wrestling Post. And what he's written is a wonderful piece on Lance Storm. He's an unsung hero of Canadian wrestling, grappling. Many fans of his from the 90s will remember his work in ECW, what he did in WCW, how that transitioned over to WWE, his whole "if I can be serious for a minute," when he was always serious, and super articulate. Why more didn't come about, always wonder. Multiple champion. Chris Jericho at one point was part of Angles as the Un-Americans. Phenomenal work.
Yeah, you ask why so little came from him, and I think it's because he kind of got typecast, or he kind of got unfairly cast as boring, just because he was big on his technical stuff, and I think that was at a time when technical wrestling was kind of poo-pooed in the mainstream as being boring. I don't think he helped his case by making his finish a single leg crab, but I think that it was actually kind of misused everywhere except ECW.
Yeah.
See, this is where I'm really lucky because I'm covering ECW for the sites, and I haven't actually got to him yet. I'm in April 95 at the moment, which by the time this goes out, my next piece will be out, and it features the debut of Eddie Guerrero. So I know that Lance isn't that far down the line, so I'm looking forward to that. But I know from watching ECW before just how great he was. And he carried that on to every promotion he ever went into. And it might have been a case of just wrong place, wrong time. He's technically perfect. He's up there, in my eyes, with Bret Hart for the technical ability that he shows and always has done. It just happens to be, as I said, the wrong place, wrong time for his pushes, in my opinion.
His recently, like, you could see his fingerprints are on. It probably doesn't sound right the way I was going to phrase it, but his fingerprints are all over Dominic Mysterio. But really, it's his training of Dominic Mysterio, which should be credited in the work that we're seeing. It's kind of living on, right? His influence is there.
And he's not officially retired yet. There's still a few more matches in him. And I hear Chris Jericho wants his last match to be against Lance Storm.
Ooh, I didn't hear that. That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. So,
well, interesting though, in the piece that Mike wrote, he quoted something where his last match in Ring of Honor was where he had said, "As far as me as an in-ring performer, this would be it." He was vocal at the time. So, Lance Evers, if that's the wrestler that if it's just the trainer that continues on, you're right, Pete. Maybe it is something that Chris Jericho pulls and coerces him enough to say, let that one last match be something special. Maybe it's in the Hart family dungeon or something. Really, really throw back to when they were together.
Yeah. Have the Thrill Seekers one last time.
For sure.
Perfect way to end that segment now, I think. So, from our past pieces, we're going to carry on now with a few more bits of wrestling news that's happened around the globe. Our resident Impact expert, Mr. Pete, we have a new champ. We spoke about it last week.
Yeah.
About how they wouldn't do a switch on normal TV. They'd wait for a pay-per-view.
and here we are under the Impact World Championship reign of one Eric Young.
How wrong were we?
Our track record is not looking good at all.
It really isn't, is it? But at least, I'm under the impression that they hear us and they go, "We're going to swerve them," and that's what they do.
But it makes for a great conversation.
Yeah. So, is it the right time to put the belt on him? Was it wrong to take it off Eddie? What do you think?
So was it the right time to put a belt on him? Like we said last week, it should have happened on a pay-per-view. I think that if they had more time to really explore the area, we could have gotten more. But as for taking the belt off Eddie Edwards, I think the open challenge always had that consequence about it. Like any of them could have been Edwards' last match as champion. And I think that we should have expected him to have a reign that wasn't very long, but definitely one that was important. And Edwards' reign was important because he was the one who was right after Tessa Blanchard was stripped of the championship and for failing to appear, and he needed to put the shine back on that belt because we hadn't seen it in a while and it hadn't been defended, and it was kind of getting overshadowed by Moose and the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. So it's one of those things where the right person has the championship, but it should have happened. I could have waited a little longer.
I mean, the next pay-per-view is it Bound for Glory? The big Mania type show, which I think is in the middle of next month. They say 5 to 6 weeks. Do you reckon they could have eked it out 5 to 6 weeks? That's where from their point of view, that's where I'm seeing it. I don't think the story they were telling could have stretched until the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So you just put the belt on him now, and then we'll make Eddie the babyface that's running for the belt.
Yeah, I mean, if this is the beginning to a program with them, I'm willing to see that out. I don't think they could have kept going for another 6 weeks, but I think they could have. Yeah, they could have had a little bit more builds before Eric Young struck for the championship. I think there should have been a little bit more mind games going on. There should have been a bit more stalking, playing with his food.
What about you, Mark? Did you watch Impact this week? Did you see the match?
No, I just kind of caught the highlights. I know that Pete wrote up about it as far as our and new. Really well done. The maniacal character is something that always has done well. And much like you guys, I think there could have been more play to it. I just don't know what if we're looking at still no crowds, does it still generate the same kind of buzz in 4 weeks that it would have? Is timing really going to be that much of a difference? Maybe not. We could hold off in 4 weeks and it be a pay-per-view and still not get the big grand return that somebody like Eric Young, who contributed so much to Impact. I mean, everybody talks about AJ Styles, but Eric Young's contributions to Impact shouldn't be forgotten either. What happens? Is it just as important? I don't know.
It's how can I put it? He's paid his dues. Let's put it like that. The guy was in TNA / Impact for a damn long time. He was there during the lean years. I mean, the guy was married, inverted commas, to ODB. He deserved something out of it. Going to WWE and not fitting their system is, I think, the positive way of saying it. And coming back, he had to say something. He had to make an impact, much like EC3 is, in a very different way. This is what Eric Young's done. So it legitimizes the time he spent away, that WWE has turned him into this maniacal, out-of-control character who just wants to take what he thinks that he deserves. I dig that. The match they had left me wanting more on Tuesday. It was solid, and you can definitely tell, given an extra 5, 7, 8 minutes, they could have put on an even better match. So the rematch down the line, which they're going to be, and possibly a small program as well, that's good. But as Pete said, if they could have just eked it out and put the belt on him at Bound for Glory, it would have made it an even bigger accomplishment. If EY could have just toyed with him, the mind games, the random attacks, anything and everything to get in Eddie's head, it would have made for a better story. The story's not even finished yet. So
and also there was also maybe a handful of other guys that Eddie could have faced as part of the open challenge.
Yeah, you named some last week, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could have seen him having a good match with Hernandez, maybe Crazy Steve.
Exactly. There could have been ways to get to this without EY being involved, so to speak. He could have toyed with him from the background, and Eddie could have defended 2-3 weeks, and then EY pounced.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we're armchair booking. So
he could still be playing with his mind, even like maybe to have the champion in the role of somebody that gets in the head of the competitor, that's the challenger. Has it really been done where the Predator is really the one holding the title as opposed to the one having to fear that they have something to lose, whereas the challenger has something to fear that they've got something to lose?
Off the top of my head, Bray Wyatt
hard-
when he first had the Universal title.
Yeah, that seems like about the only time that's really happened, and it never lasts long.
No.
So do you think that they're going to flip it in about 4 weeks? Do you think they go back to?
Oh, I hope not. I hope they don't hot shot it.
Yeah, especially this soon after taking action to rehabilitate the belt.
Yeah, as you said, he's put some shine back on the belt after it being on hiatus. He's made it look prestigious again, and for them to just you have it, I have it, you have it, I have it. It's gonna take the shine away.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope not, but you never know, especially with booking, because well, as we've said it, they won't do it now. That's the way I see it. So now, from Impact, we go to tomorrow night's AEW All Out. Now, we're recording this on a Friday afternoon / evening. We could be completely wrong with all this, and feel free to once again jump on our Twitters and harass us and tell us that we're idiots. But here is our very quick, because we're slightly over time, AEW preview. We shall start with the Casino Battle Royale. Who have you got? Who do you expect? Is there any surprises, folks?
Hold on, I'm just going to bring up the everyone who's been announced so far. Darby Allin, Brian Cage, Rey Fenix, Pentagon Jr., The Butcher, The Blade, Chuck Taylor, Trent, Ricky Starks, Brian Cage, and Eddie Kingston are the names that have been announced so far.
Where are we going?
Oh, Billy and Austin Gunn and Jake Hager.
Do we see any surprises from like independents?
Oh, showing up.
Yeah.
Unnamed. Well, I mean, they could always. One woman that I don't know if they're going to go in that direction and bring a female in, but I would like to see Lufisto maybe show up. I know everyone lobbies for her to have been part of that TNA Championship challenge, but I don't know about showing up being a surprise, but I'll go with Darby Allin as the winner.
I am also for Darby Allin as the winner. I'd like to get into that later, actually. But as for someone from the Indies who could show up, Warhorse on Dynamite was kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
and I think that he could easily show up for the Casino Battle Royale, even if he doesn't win.
That's a good shout. My pick, I've got two, so I'm going to hedge my bets slightly. I've got Brian Cage because he's got Taz in his corner, and I'm a big Taz mark. And secondly, Eddie Kingston. He's so good and so underrated and flown under the radar for so damn long. He deserves a massive spotlight to be shined upon him. So I'm hoping that one of those two guys, more for Eddie than anyone else. So from there, we are off to the Dark Order versus... Now, I'm not going to say all this. I've just written this down as Cody's friends. So,
his friends and family.
Yeah.
Where are we going?
I have two predictions. I think either Brody Lee is going to pin Dustin Rhodes, or Matt Cardona is going to score the pin on Brody Lee. Just because I think those are the two most obvious outcomes to me. Either a big win for the Dark Order, or Matt Cardona gets a big win on pay-per-view.
What about you, Mark?
I like Pete's train of thought right now. Does a loss for the Dark Order hurt them overall when your champion is still...
Well, I think, if you heard last week, that I think the whole reason that Brody Lee got such an easy win over Cody Rhodes is that just Cody, I should say. The whole reason that Brody Lee got a win over Cody is because I think he did something to orchestrate a big win for himself and bolster confidence within the Dark Order. So to win the TNT Championship and then to celebrate like they did and then take a loss in the next pay-per-view kind of smells like Vince McMahon 50-50 book.
Yeah, I do like I've written down in my notes here that I've got Cardona picking up the win to start a feud. because I think he's got a 5-match date, and this will be match 2. So that's a little mini feud there. The more I think about it after hearing you say it, the more I like the Dark Order totally demolishing every single person involved in Cody's friends and family team, which then puts so much heat on the Dark Order, boosts them back up, makes Brody Lee look strong, and then you've got Cody coming back at some point down the road, hot as hell. And then you've got Matt Cardona, hot as hell, who could stoke the fire and keep it going until Cody gets back. You've got Dustin. I mean, you could even have Brody Lee finishing off Dustin, and that could be his career. Well, storyline career to prolong it that way. But I think it's in all seriousness, it's going to be Matt Cardona picking up a win and starting a mini feud. So from there, we're going to a possible match of the night here: Jurassic Express against the Young Bucks. Mark, what are you thinking?
I don't think a loss by the Bucks ever hurts them. It only just helps another team. So if wins and losses matter, a win for the Jurassic Express is a good thing. It helps them, builds them up, and it doesn't really involve Marco's stunt. So it becomes a more credible match seeing them as a team with Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. And yeah, that it's going to be an exciting match, win or lose. But my call is Jurassic Express.
I'm going to go completely different, the completely different direction, and I think the Young Bucks are going to win this one, just because I think that they are going to have to display a bit more intensity as they are participating in this build towards a match with FTR down the road.
I like your thinking.
Which also, I guess, gives away a different one of my predictions.
It's one apiece here. I'm gonna go and side with Mark, and I'm calling Jurassic Express to win, simply because the wins and losses matter. You've got the wins and losses that count towards your ranking, and rankings whether or not you get a title shot. Jurassic Express, as much as I love them as a team, I can't remember the last time I saw them win a match. And the Bucks are the Bucks, and they can easily take one for the team and put them over, and it wouldn't bother them at all. And to be fair, since the inception of AEW, I don't think they've really been that high up the rankings. They've had one title match, I think, in all the time that AEW's been around.
They've been in a handful of number one contendership matches, but they've only had the one title match. So
in that respect, I think Express can take the win and push them a bit up, because it's not going to hurt the Bucks. You could go down a dusty route and just bring out FTR to cause some mayhem to further the feud. They could easily lose this and still come out of this looking strong against FTR down the road.
Definitely.
From that match, we go to the AEW Women's Championship match. Another possible match of the night here. You've got Hikaru Shida against Thunder Rosa, the NWA Women's Champion. In my defense, I have not watched a single lick of NW Power, and I know everyone's going to shoot me hate mail and everything else, but there's only so many hours in a day, and the amount of wrestling that we watch, the three of us each week, something's got to give, and it was always NWA Power. So I don't know much about Thunder Rosa. I've read the recent piece that was put out on the site, so don't have a go at me for that. I have read it. I've not really seen much of her matches. What do we think?
I think Shida's going to take this one. Not to put Thunder Rosa down at all as NWA World Women's Champion, but I think that her presence in this match is kind of an admission of how weak the AEW women's division is right now. Not that I think they've necessarily done a bad job building the women's division. I just think that a lot of the big players, or people who should be the big players in the women's division, aren't available right now. We haven't seen Chris Statlander in a long time. We haven't seen Awesome Kong in a long time. And we're not even sure if Bea Priestley's still under contract. You have all these very talented women who can't be there for the show. And I think the women's division has kind of been suffering, even though they had their women's tag team tournament very recently.
Yeah, that's very strange. How many women was used for the tag team tournament? And the women's division did look stacked, because you could see all these women joining the division, and then all of a sudden a call has gone out and the NWA Women's Champions come in to take the number one spot, which is going to piss off quite a lot of the women's roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have a lot of women who are very talented, but also, a lot of women who though talented don't really seem like credible challengers to Shida outside of Statlander, Kong, and Priestley and Britt Baker if she were well enough to have a match, which she very might well be, as she has a match on the pre-show. She's
on the pre-show with Big Swole.
Big Swole.
Mm-hmm. So, Mark, Thunder Rosa,
she's special. Definitely seeing her compete, seeing what she's done, not just in not just in the NWA, but also outside of that as well. She's had matches in ROH, and she's been in a tag team with Holodead, and I mean, she's very noted. Will this be the match that brings things full circle and she becomes the AEW champion? I don't know. I don't think too fast, too soon is the way to go. But it seems like it didn't stop Impact from putting a title on a former champion that way. So to follow logic and reason and what works, I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea so quickly. I think we could still have a solid match, and a win for Shida just shows how good she is, because that's the one thing the women's title really hasn't had a really long-standing champion hold the title and it be that prestigious.
Well, as I said at the beginning of this, I don't really know much about Thunder Rosa. So on that basis, I am going for a Shida win. But what I am taking away from this is this little agreement between AEW and NWA. Does that open the doors for an alliance later on down the road, or some kind of partnership? Or it's interesting for me.
You're right. At the first All Out, the NWA World Championship was one of the belts defended, and maybe this is AEW giving back, sort of repaying the favor. But to have that as part of like a talent sharing agreement between All Elite Wrestling and the National Wrestling Alliance.
Hopefully, business is business. So shining a lot in the NWA, and we're getting back into business again. So from that match, we go to a couple of gimmick matches coming up. First one I have is Matt Hardy against Sammy Guevara in a Broken Rules match. Now, who knows what a Broken Rules match is? And can they explain that to me?
I have a feeling it's just going to be a no DQ match.
Oh, is that it?
I have a feeling that's it. Unless there's been no announcement as to being like a cinematic match or anything of that nature.
Oh, I'm disappointed now. I saw Matt Hardy's name in it. I was getting excited for some cinematic wrestling, and it's just a no DQ match.
Yeah, I think if anything, I think the cinematic match is going to be the Britt Baker Big Swole match.
Yeah. Which is on the pre-show, which we haven't covered, so we'll pass on that. But yeah, so we've got Matt Hardy against Sammy Guevara. Where are we going? Who's gonna do this?
Well, there's also the stipulation that if Matt Hardy loses, he will have to leave AEW, and I don't think that's going to be the case for someone who debuted so recently. I think Hardy's going to win, and honestly, I think Hardy might retire in AEW. Like if this was if Hardy loses, he must retire match, then maybe he'd lose. But I think he's still got a lot left into him to offer All Elite Wrestling.
What about yourself, Mark?
I'm going to go in the complete opposite direction, and I think the idea of teasing him potentially retiring or leaving. They said that Matt Hardy is leaving, but does that mean broken Matt Hardy remains? Do they do something fishy with the name and that he's stronger than death, or you get version 3.0? I don't know. I mean, do we get another version of what came to be, and that it's the end of what we knew with Matt Hardy? Are we looking at it at a deeper level? Is there something, or is there nothing? But it would be fun. It might upset. I mean, some fans may be like, "Yeah, this is great," and some will be like, "Really? That's cheesy." Like, so he's He's technically left, but he's not left because, like, who? So does he disappear and Maxwell shows up, or does Willow come out? Like, does his father-in-law appear? I don't know, but I really think that he loses, and he's maybe haunted. Sammy is by what is left of Matt Hardy, and that some remnants comes back. I don't know.
I'm going to take a screenshot of my notes and I'm going to forward the picture to you two later because you have literally pinched what I was about to say. I was going to say there's going to be a technicality where Matt Hardy will leave, but it will be one of his other guys that will come back and, you know, carry on wrestling. And this okay, the match itself is going to be great. Matt is going to make Sammy look $1 million. He's going to put him over so well. Sammy's going to get the win. In my eyes, Sammy will get the win. And as you said, he will be haunted by Matt throughout the next month or so. Sammy's going to crow about this. He's the one that retired the amazing Matt Hardy. He did this, he did that. He's so clever. He's so cool. And then he's going to end up... Do you remember when Warrior was in WCW? And you had Hulk Hogan looking in the mirror and you had Warrior behind it just for a split second. That kind of theatrics in a cinematic way, I can see just a further... There's no way the story's finished yet, but something along those lines is going to carry on. That's what I want. That's what I can see. Mm-hmm. And as we said, it's not going to happen, but that to me, it's going to be a Sammy win. And by hook or by crook, Hardy's going to keep his job. And then from that match, we go to some Mimosa Madness, don't we, guys? Chris Jericho against Orange Cassidy. This is going to be a bit of a breather from the rest of the card. This is going to be a lot of comedy, and with two guys who are amazing talents. Even to this day, Chris Jericho is still goddamn good. Where are we going, boys?
I must say that of all the matches on the card, this is the match I would least like to be in. If only because oranges just give me terrible headaches. I'm behind Orange Cassidy on this one because he seems to be one of the fastest rising stars in All Elite, and I think that Jericho at this point in his career can comfortably take losses like that. Jericho's
publicly said that he will quite happily put people over now.
Mm-hmm.
It's always there.
Yeah, and like this being the rubber match, I think a more decisive victory for Orange Cassidy than a roll-up probably do wonders for him moving forward.
What about you, Mark?
Much like Pete, I have a hard time really disagreeing with any of what he said or seeing it differently. Yeah, but unlike Pete, Christmas morning mimosas are what we have in our household. Although we throw a little bit of cranberry juice, it's actually not bad. But as far as a match with these two, we've needed to see some depth. We've needed to see a little bit of anger out of Orange Cassidy, and thank goodness Chris Jericho's been the one to bring out the vitriol in him and get him all fired up and angry. Let's hope we get that win for Orange Cassidy.
And I'm 100% behind you guys. It is some vitamin C all the way. It is Orange Cassidy in a great match. I mean, Jericho is going to do the job. I hope he does the job. He's going to shine him up really well. And Orange Cassidy, as you said, Pete, is one of the biggest and fastest rising stars in AEW. It'd be silly not to capitalize on this feud and push him even further. We're now at the top end of the card, and we have the two title matches. We have the AEW Tag Team Championships, where Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page will be teaming up to defend their titles against FTR. This is tight. Where are we going, Pete?
I'm all for FTR in this one, just because I think this is going to take them into their program with the Young Bucks. But I think that this is where we're going to see the Elite really stress or come under some tension. We've already got that from last week's Dynamite and being the Elite this week, where Hangman Adam Page is looking like he's no longer part of the Elite. Yeah, this could be the push to really make the Elite implode, because I really think that in good wrestling booking, when you give us something we want, you have to take away something we liked. And we all liked the Elite. We liked that unit. And I think if they're going to give us a dream match like FTR versus the Young Bucks, they're going to take away that faction that we'd come to love.
100%. Absolutely.
I also think that this is going to be the beginning of a time when the AEW World Tag Team Championship kind of gets hot potatoed. But I think that's overall a good thing, because at this point it would really speak to the strength of the division. Whereas, if they were doing that with, we said earlier, with the Impact World Championship, after it's taken such it's had such a hard time not being defended on TV, and having the champion just not show up. But we have, we've had SCU as tag team champions who did very well, had a respectable reign. And now we have Hangman and Omega who've also had a very respectable reign. They're at over 160 days now. And really the tag division has been growing, and I think seeing more teams capture that championship and really show that on any given night anyone could win.
For sure. Definitely. Mark?
I'm excited about this match, and with Tully Blanchard behind them, the seeds are planted with them and Sean Spears. And is this exactly that, the match that makes Omega and Paige completely implode? And maybe it is Paige that willingly takes the pinfall because he's done with all of it and being called a drunk, and he knows whose side he's on, and he walks out with Blanchard and FTR. So I don't see it being hot potatoed. I think having a solid reign and a lot of people that are there to support it make the tag division that much more enticing to be a part of, and the programs can be that much more exciting. The volume of teams can be a little too much if you can't do it well. I'm curious to see what will happen. I'm excited with the possibility of FTR winning, and yeah, I think that might be in the direction that I'm going with my call.
This is another possible match of the night for me. FTR, the Revival, whatever you want to call them, have put on stellar match after stellar match after stellar match when the stakes have been high. This is their biggest match in AEW. They are going to pull out all the stops to show the world that they are and deserve the title of best tag team in the world. The way I see this going is, as Pete said, Hangman's he's not going to lay down as such, but he'll take the pin. Omega will have the hump with Hangman. They will implode, which then sets up the dream match of Bucks against the Revival. The Revival, my bad. FTR further down the line. It's the undertones of the story, the booking. It's just been a highlight of this whole reign of Omega and Paige. Are they friends? Are they not? Is he a drunk? Does he have the backing of the Elite? He wants to leave. It's so many different nuances in this story. It's been fantastic. It's completely different to where you've seen it in other promotions. But yes, it's FTR for the win. And this is what I'm banking on. This is my the entire card. This is my banker. So if I'm wrong, again, feel free to just lambast me on Twitter and social media. It makes a change from my wife doing it. It's all good. It's all good. From that title match, we go to the main event. We have the AEW World Championship, where Jon Moxley will defend against MJF in a very fun and different build, I think, for this feud, Pete.
Yeah, it's very, very much MJF campaigning to win this title, or to at least have the match, and really doing all he can to stack the deck in his favor. And that's why I've got kind of a sinking feeling about this match that MJF is going to win. And I say sinking feeling, but I think that this is going to play into some unfinished business between MJF and Cody down the line. But yeah, tying this back to my prediction about the Casino Battle Royale, I think that if MJF were to win, you would need someone who would believably lose to MJF. And I don't think that someone like Brian Cage, like Lance Archer, like some of the bigger guys in that match, the Casino Battle Royale. Those guys would absolutely roll through MJF if in a one-on-one scenario. But I think with Darby Allin, you can have him lose and look good in his loss.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense, yeah.
As for MJF's unfinished business with Cody, I can see Cody coming back after he's done with whatever's taken him off TV, and perhaps earning his right to challenge for the AEW World Championship back. That is, if he's not going straight into a feud with Brody Lee.
What about you, Mark? Where do you see this going?
It's a lot for me to kind of unpack it. I don't want Moxley to lose, and there's nothing. I think because the deck is so stacked against him, the way Moxley comes across is that it's just no sweat. And I think unless somebody leading up to that makes you think that there's some sort of doubt in Moxley's mind, he could have lawyers, doctors, whomever is going to be around the ring to support him. I just can't see Moxley losing now. I can see it happening. I think they would want it with some sort of... I think the program has been good, but I don't buy him losing and it making sense. There's nothing that's pulling me in that direction, even with everything stacked against him. I don't see the Cody thing. I think that ship has kind of sailed. They've had that program. I think Cody's already put him over, and that's kind of the end of it. But yeah, Paul is really thinking Moxley will win because they're trying to build stack the deck against him so much.
See, I thought about that as well, but I think that I think that AEW is not interested in making someone who they're not into making someone who will win even in what's the word, extenuating circumstances, the way that John Cena used to all the time. And right. I think that with the deck stacked so much in MJF's favor, to have Moxley win kind of feels like one of those situations in like circa 2008, 2009, where it would seem entirely likely that Cena would lose. But, you know, AEW doesn't seem like a Moxley wins lol kind of company.
But do you ever get the impression that commentators saying repeatedly, "Oh, the deck stacked up against them"? That yeah, we know that. It's like telling somebody that can't see that they're blind. We know that, but at the same time, with them trying to remind us of something that's so clear, doesn't that in essence say, well, yeah, it's so clear, but there's still a chance?
Yeah. I guess it would also.
It'll be fun.
I've got this really close. I literally can't pick a winner because of, as you said, guys, he's one way or the other. It can go towards MJF in his, how can I put it, his presidential election style storyline, which ties into what's happening in America right now. And then you've got the John Moxley, who's just going to be this John Cena-esque overcome all odds kind of thing. If I had to choose, and obviously I have to, I'm going to go with MJF, just because I don't think John Moxley would want to see himself down that Cena route. He would want to look vulnerable where, I mean, this is the guy that had his eye taken out by the Inner Circle and still walked away, a champion.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so far you can take that credibility before you think, yeah, all right, Cena 2.0. So I think MJF is going to win this. And it's a good shout, actually, about Cody coming back for MJF. The program's done and dusted, but there was still, going back to long-term storytelling, there was still some underlying tension and issues between the pair. That's always going to be there. That's like a Hogan Savage kind of, underlying baseline story.
Hey, that's great.
But he needs to have his revenge on Brody. There's no way someone takes a beating like that and goes, you know what, I'll come back to you, but first I'm going to the champion first. It's always, personal before business. The MJF storyline, I can see happening down the line when Cody's back from filming and after he's finished with Brody Lee. I'm going to go with it. If, like I said, I'm going to choose. It's MJF for me all the way. I've just decided right now. That's it. I've convinced myself. That was clever.
All right.
Nicely done.
Oh. That's the AEW preview out of the way. Done and dusted. Obviously, as I said at the beginning here, this is recorded the night before the pay-per-view. So if we're wrong, what are you going to do? After a nice little bit of fun there, I'm going to hand this over to Mark. The wrestling community, the female wrestling community, suffered some devastating news 2 days ago.
Yes. Casey Michael, wrestling journalist, really important to the women's wrestling community in particular, but wrestling as a whole, an insider. He's just as committed to not costing somebody an opportunity as he is embracing them, supporting them, standing with them. So he passed away a couple of days ago. He's had issues with liver. The cause, a liver transplant did not take, or it had it, didn't survive from the effects of it. 26 years of age. Just devastating to know that he's behind people and pushing people like Mia Yim and what he's meant to people like them, Thunder Rosa, or Rachel Evers, or Ellering. It says a lot about her. It says a lot about him and what he's meant to them and people that can depend on him, and how he was so vocal also during the speaking out movement and being supportive of all of those that were affected. And sadly, as quickly as he rose, his health took his life. And we remember what he's done for women's wrestling and what Squared Circle Sirens will continue to do to live his memory on and carry on with his memory. There is a GoFundMe page available. We will have that in the post as well. I'll put a link to that. It's already doubled its earnings to cover the cost of the funeral and the proceedings that have followed that. So we do send, on behalf of Pro Wrestling Post, we send our best wishes and well wishes to Casey Michael and his family at this time.
Just before we leave today, we have an upcoming piece coming out later next week. I'm going to go hand this back to Mark because it's his piece and it's about a certain NXT women's wrestler.
Well, it's one of a couple, because you, my friend, who's got a special day coming up this weekend. Pete, do you know what's happening with Marc's weekend?
I've heard that he's going to be playing an awful lot of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater remake.
Yeah, that would be part of it. Yeah, that's definitely it. He's also going to have an ECW retro view taking place. Is that not true?
That's right. Yes, I did mention this earlier. I have my ECW piece coming out. What these two are slightly digging at here is that it's my birthday this Sunday. I shall be turning a very ancient age, and as Pete so succinctly put, I shall be playing Tony Hawk's all weekend. I've already played it for at least about 9 hours today before recording, and I shall carry on with that all weekend as I booked the weekend off from the day job. So I didn't want to mention it, but I've sort of been pushed into it. So thank you very much, guys. And what else is happening on Sunday then? Is this when the Dakota Kai piece is coming out?
The Dakota Kai piece is scheduled for this coming Monday. It is our latest in the Before the E series. Again, looking at her history, her career leading up to this point, and really how she's become this heel now, where she was so weak prior to, but really she's come such a long way as a competitor. It talks about her relationship with Tegan Knox, or Nixon Newell. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Nixon Newell, yep, spot on.
Yep. Prior to, but it's more of a build-up, as with any of the Before the E pieces, and talks about that with Dakota and where she is up until the Mae Young Classic, and she's seen her share of heartbreak and disappointment with injuries as well. But we're hoping that It's all behind her now.
It certainly looks that way. I mean, she's being booked absolutely fantastically well at the moment, and yeah, all power to her. Hopefully, she can carry on and push on, and our Before the E piece will shine a light that many people don't know about her background.
Indeed.
So, with that is the end of today's pod. Once again, we'll finish up here with our social medias. Pete, where can we find you? I mean, by now people should surely know where you are.
Pete Probably at Pete Probably on Twitter, and I don't have a joke for this week. I'm sorry.
He's all joked out. That's what it is. Mark, yourself?
You can reach us at our official Pro Wrestling Post Twitter handle at Pro Wrestling PST, or on Instagram at Pro Wrestling Post. If you want to reach out to me personally, at the Marc Madison on Twitter, and that would be it. Yeah.
Fantastic. I am at Mark Blake PWP. I will be accepting birthday messages and some IOUs for chocolate cake, as I'll be stuffing my face on Sunday with chocolate cake whilst watching All Out. Once again, thank you guys for listening to us. We will be here same time next week. So until then, we are out of here. Bye-bye.